salt. The commodity that wars were once raged over, empires built upon, and trade routes set around for thousands of years has come back in the spotlight once again with Atlas Salt. This is their story.
Let's go to Newfoundland. So here there's a 2-hour line to get into our domestic flight to Newfoundland, but I think at the end it'll be all worth it.
We're headed to Deer Lake, Newfoundland to meet with the Atlas Salt executive team, where we'll be getting a first-hand look at the salt deposits that are capturing the attention of investors all across the world. There's a reason they're a Venture 50 company, and by the end of this journey, you'll understand why.
Apparently it wasn't a 2-hour line. Now for some breakfast because we're here way too early.
Survive it. I just had more technology.
Of course, Pearson Airport, forgot, delayed by 2 hours.
There's no kiss and cry here. This lady's gonna kick us out of here. Come on, let's go. Yeah.
Nice seeing
Brian,
you
good
again.
to see you.
Danielle.
Danielle, nice to see you. Right, so on this side here we have the old ancient continent of North America, and on the east side to my left is the equivalent of a Japanese volcanic belt, island arc sequence, that were compressed about 400 million years ago. So we're driving down that fault line now, which separates these two domains, as we call them, geological. Yeah.
From Halifax or from here?
So therefore the supplier becomes the swing player. He becomes a storage. And so, you know, if there's a snowstorm and they need to fill back up, I've seen Goderich get 250, 300 truckloads a day.
It was great to see how genuine and passionate this Atlas team truly is. After a well-needed rest, we're excited to begin touring the west coast of Newfoundland.
I explained also this morning, it's one of the principal industries on the island. After fishing, mining has always been a part of Newfoundlanders' life. It was the full-time job. My grandfather was an iron ore miner on Bell Island, and that was under the ocean. And he used to ride across the frozen saltwater bay of Conception Bay on a horse and sleigh with other men to go to work in the mine in the winter, frozen ice, frozen ocean. So it's always been a part of the culture. I have not, in my 60 years of being in Newfoundland, heard anybody opposed to mining.
Newfoundlanders rely heavily on the lumber and fishing industries, which have been in decline for quite some time. A new salt mine on the west coast would bring hundreds of permanent jobs for decades to come.
These are small, these are little bursts for video. You need to dance with French. You stop. You stop.
I'm videoing you and you're videoing me.
We're doing each other.
So I'm just doing a picture of myself. Because I think it's all very funny.
With rain taking over the west coast, we have a quick change of plans and head back to our chalet for a fireside chat to talk all things salt with Patrick and Rowland.
Drill core from Great Atlantic. When you put a little bit of light to it, it becomes completely translucent right to the core. Honestly, really fascinating stuff. But enough of me talking about it. Let's talk to Patrick and Rowland about it. Patrick and Rowland, thank you once again for your time. And I love seeing this. We just showed a really cool clip of what happens when the light goes behind this and what it looks like. But this is the drill core from the Great Atlantic. Can you explain a little bit, what are we seeing right now?
Well, that's a box of core from hole CC5 that was drilled a few years ago, and is part of our 43-101 resource calculation. And what you're seeing here is simply the massive salt that we found near the base of this hole. It's a typical gray color. We have a variety of colors. We have white salt, gray salt, champagne colored salt. We also have a red variety and black. Now they are exceptional. The vast bulk of the deposit is a gray and white salt.
Now, I wanted to ask as well, because just like you said, there are different colors here. You see much more whiter in the inside of the core. You see some black elements. Does that have anything to do with purity of this salt, different types of salt, or is it simply just a different color?
Well, this salt here is averaging between 95 and 98% sodium chloride. So color doesn't necessarily determine purity. Color, these types of salts, the grays and the whites and the champagne, is really an optical phenomenon. It's dictated by how light transmits through the crystalline structure. So if you take the salt, for example, and you cut it, or you break it open, you can see how nice and white the salt is on the inside. And guess what? Wow, it's fantastic.
You're doing these drill holes because you want to see what this deposit looks like. We have a feasibility study that's ongoing right now for investors that need a little bit more understanding of what is going on with that feasibility and why you do it. Roland, can you speak about that a little bit?
Well, the feasibility study really is, we've been looking at this for a while, years. And feasibility study is going to bring a third party to bear, engineering companies doing the work for us. And they're going to look at the whole, how you design the mine, and basically price it up. And at the end of the day, they're going to say, this works, it's feasible as a market, we can mine this economically, and this is what it costs to set up. So you'll end up with a feasibility study it's a bankable study, and something that certainly can attract a lot of attention.
Yeah, I know with a lot of other mining places as well, you do your feasibility study, but then that might just tell you, hey, this is where you need to start drilling more, and you do tens, hundreds of more holes. Is that the plan with the Great Atlantic deposit?
No, and in fact, you won't feel those.
Okay.
This is such a massive deposit that you don't need to drill to find it. What we're doing is mostly we're drilling to get some geotechnical information about how we would structure the mine, how we design the mine, and design the access to the mine. So, salt is soluble, so you don't want a whole bunch of holes into the deposit, because you have to avoid those when you're mining, and that just cuts up your design. So you want to keep it to a minimum, give you enough information about the deposit and the overlying strata that you can make a good design.
The more and more you're seeing from the Great Atlantic deposit, how are you seeing the comparisons to Goderich? Is it the same? Are you seeing even better things? Can you go a little bit more into that again for an investor to be curious?
Goderich is like the gold standard. It's the biggest in the world, and it has a lot of advantages, and it makes it the best. But this one, Great Atlantic, the deposit is close to water, which gives you the opportunity to actually ship to the markets that need the salt for winter. The deposit is a massive homogeneous deposit that allows you to plan your mine and mine accordingly. So it's just all the pieces are there that make this equally advantaged. And certainly, when Patrick brought it to my attention, I just saw basically a new Goderich. We could build a new Goderich here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And what I like about this whole vision is, there's a big market there, and we'll start 2-4 million, but the design that we're contemplating is being able to, we'll have something that's scalable. We'll be able to speed it up, we'll be able to put more power and put more machines in. Why start at 4, maybe 6? And as we test the market, as the market develops, who knows?
North America uses over $3.5 billion worth of salt every year. With a yearly 7 to 10 million ton deficit, Atlas Salt is primed to fill that void with the largest undeveloped homogeneous salt deposit in all of North America. There's a reason why investors are so excited at the potential here.
October fire, November rain, I left the fleece outside again. Dampened ground, thirsty warm.
So this has nothing to do with Atlas salt, but isn't this an absolutely incredible province? Look at this.
Newfoundland and Labrador has such incredible geology with untapped potential to create world-class mines. What was once so hard to prospect due to lack of access has become a staking frenzy now that technological advancements have opened this province up to a world of potential discoveries.
We are here at Turf Point in Newfoundland with Atlas Salt President Rowland Howe. It's an amazing site behind us. It's been an incredible journey that we've been on. For investors watching this right now, can you explain a little bit about why the Great Atlantic deposit is so special, but also what is this behind us?
Okay. So behind us here is really the key to this. This is a Turf Point. This is an ocean-going, vessel loading facility. So the Great Atlantic Salt Deposit is literally just about 2 kilometers up the road here. It's dead straight road, private road, and it comes down to being able to ship straight off here. So this whole region is underlain by salt, and there's different structures, and one of which is the Great Atlantic Salt Deposit, which is close to surface. It's a massive homogeneous salt deposit. It's geologically de-risked, and it's in a great place to be able to take advantage of the logistics of deep sea.
Yeah, because it's fascinating. It's going to be, you're pretty much going to tunnel down. You're going to be able to grind everything up, put it on a conveyor belt, and just like the conveyor belts we're seeing behind us, it's just going to go straight to there and right into the boat. So yeah, it's incredible, the feasibility and the logistics of it as well. But what's also incredible is your tenure within this space. You spent the last 16 years at the Goderich mine, and you were able to take that from 3.5 million tons to 7.5 million tons a year. What makes you think that Great Atlantic deposit has some of that DNA like Goderich and could potentially be very similar to it as well?
So yeah, I did have 16 years at leading the team at Goderich, and we increased that capacity from 3.5 to 7.5 million. But the thing about Goderich is the gold standard. I mean, it has great geology, it has access to water. It's on Lake Huron. It can ship anywhere around the Great Lakes region. So when you look at what we have here, you've got great geology, close to water, being able to ship into a market that is actually short of salt. It's importing 7 to 10 million salt from North Africa and Chile. But one thing is better, even better than Goderich is we're shallow here. We're only about 600 feet. Goderich is 1,800 feet. We should be able to put tunnels down into the salt and have continuous access and continuous haulage out, conveyors out, feeding the port.
Yeah. And hence why it's so incredible that you can quite literally just take a conveyor belt all the way from site right to where you would be shipping out as well. If we can paint a picture for a moment, what does the overall salt industry look like within North America, just so that investors can understand some of the players, how many mines, stuff like that, so they can get an understanding for why this is so significant and important here at Great Atlantic deposit?
Right, so I mean, there are a number of salt mines in the region, owned by Stone Canyon, Compass Minerals, that own the Goderich mine, and Cargill has a couple of mines. And those mines have been upgraded, they're producing lots of tons, but there's still an imbalance. There's been no new mine for 20 years in this region. And there's really no other salt deposit which is as developable as this one, with the advantages that we have here too.
Yeah, and we spoke about many different parts about the Great Atlantic deposit, but I'd like to also talk about what a lot of investors have on their mind as well, is what is going to happen with this deposit. Do you see a scenario where maybe a Compass Minerals, a Stone Canyon, maybe a player that's never been in the salt industry before, do you see a scenario where they come in and say, you know what, I want to be that company to develop this into a world-class mine?
Of course, I mean, as we crystallize all the ideas, the feasibility study, and we talk about this, a lot of people are looking and saying, what are we doing? I mean, this could be a disruptor, certainly going to be able to push back on imports. But anybody who's in the salt game or even in the minerals game is going to be interested in what the capabilities and potential is for this project.
Yeah, and speaking of potential as well, I just want to leave investors with one last thing, as a little bit of quick math. When in terms of how much road salt Newfoundland and Labrador, just this province alone, uses in a year, how much is that? And we do a little bit of math about how much that could potentially be in revenue in a yearly fashion without even leaving your backyard.
So I mean, Newfoundland and Labrador, they use about 300,000 tons a year just to keep their roads safe in winter. 300,000 tons, the average sales price is around $70.
Yeah. And with that, if you take that 300,000, multiply that by the $70, we're looking at upwards of $21 million in revenue, and you haven't left anywhere. You didn't even use this to take it out to port and ship it out. This is just Newfoundland and Labrador. I find that absolutely fascinating.
Truck it straight from the mine.
October fire, November rain. I left the fleece outside again. Dampened ground, so sweet. And I, the faithless fool.
It's a good look, right?
Well, we made it to the Fischell Brook site. We're here with CEO Patrick Laracy. Patrick, a lot of people have been talking about Fischell Brook. We've obviously been able to see everything that's been going on, but right now we're on top of the dome. Can you speak for investors who haven't heard this story before? What are we standing on right now?
Yeah, we're located about a kilometer off the Trans-Canada Highway here, about 15 kilometers south of the Great Atlantic Salt Deposit in an area known as the Fischell's Brook area. And there is a large salt dome underneath our feet that covers an area exceeding about 5 square kilometers that has potential for underground storage of fluids. And as well, with our gravity survey, we located what we believe to be a second salt dome a couple of kilometers east of here, which is the Fischell's Brook East Salt Dome.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see that. Obviously right now, other than a few drill holes, this is just a bunch of land, but what's under here is very, very exciting. You can see in our back, you can see all the power lines. So clearly you have power here. We have a road going all the way out to the Trans-Canadian Highway. So it's all the access is here. But I want to talk really quickly about the dividend and the spin out. This is what investors should be paying attention to, because if you are an Atlas Salt shareholder, you do get this dividend. For investors who are still curious about that, can you explain the dividend? Can you explain the spin out? But also, what might be packaged in that spin out when it occurs?
Yeah, the spin out is imminent. We have an AGM slated for the 3rd week of August, and that will culminate the legal process. Within that spin out will be the Fischell's Brook Salt Dome and the St. Fintan's area claims, which also have storage potential. So Atlas Salt will retain a significant interest in Newco, but it'll be a substantial number of shares to existing Atlas shareholders. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to put in place its own management team. We want to bring the expertise from underground storage. We want to bring expertise from the hydrogen space as well as wind energy, because this area is very well endowed with wind resources that have never been exploited. And we're looking forward to coupling the potential storage of this area with the wind energy project, use that green energy and utilize it for the production of hydrogen.
As we just heard from Patrick, Fischell's Brook is an incredible property for the generation and storage of renewable energy such as wind and hydrogen. Investors have an amazing opportunity with the imminent spin-out into Triple Point Resources, where the true potential will be created.
What's over there?
There's 2 well bores from historic drillings. Okay, so you have 2 cased holes that were drilled. One was drilled, I think, in the late 70s. The other was drilled in the 90s. Okay, hooker number 1 encountered salt at approximately 450 meters depth, and then continued into the Fischell's Brook Salt Dome to 1,097 meters, which was the end of the hole. But it was still in salt, so we know the salt is deeper and thicker than that depth. It's the deepest hole into the Fischell's Brook salt dome that was drilled historically. Well, there's recently been an announcement and a registration with the Department of Environment for a hydrogen generation project at Stephenville, which is approximately 45 kilometers north of us. We see this as a very positive development because it validates the concept that we have of producing a clean energy hub in this region. And we would expect that underground storage would be part of that clean energy hub. And the more developments, more proposals that we see in this part of the world, I think it's a very positive thing. And it's going to put this region on the clean energy map.
We hope you enjoyed our journey to Newfoundland as much as we did to get a better understanding of this incredible story as it continues to develop. There's a lot more to come from Atlas Salt, and we're excited to see what their team continues to have in store for investors and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador.